Guys, let's talk about rose. Rose in fragrances. Some of my most masculine fragrances are rose fragrances. Years ago, I would never have thought that would be the case. And not only that, some of my most complimented fragrances are rose fragrances. So if you didn't think rose fragrances could be manly, let me change your mind. Yes, of course, some rose fragrances can lean very feminine. There is definitely an association with how rose is done in certain fragrances that leans more feminine than masculine, but a lot of the time it depends what else is in the fragrance. If there's a lot of other florals in the fragrance around the rose, then yeah, it can lean a lot more feminine, but that's not always the case. I've picked out 6 fragrances that I think lean really masculine. To me, they seem very manly and they are pretty heavy on the rose. And just from my own experience, I tend to find that as a guy, when I wear a rose dominant fragrance, it can get noticed. They're often a head turner and that can lead to compliments. So these are the ones that I would like to recommend to you. I got this fragrance from Armani last year. As soon as I smelled it, I absolutely loved it and I started wearing it immediately. And on that trip to London where I picked up the fragrance, I started getting compliments. In the Armani Prive line, this is Cuir Nu. As well as the rose, this one has coffee, cardamom, leather, amber, tonka bean, and labdanum. I would say rose is the dominant note in this fragrance. You can really smell it. It's in the heart of the scent, but it doesn't run away with the scent completely because it's surrounded by other darker notes like the coffee, like the leather. There's some cool, fresh, spicy cardamom. So all these other notes sort of stop the rose from being too prominent and it all blends really nicely together. Don't get me wrong, like I said, this is certainly a rose scent, but because it is blended so well with everything else in the fragrance, to me, this comes across pretty masculine. I was walking into an event wearing this fragrance. The event was nothing to do with Armani, but I was wearing a leather jacket, so I thought this would be perfect because of the leather in here. And the leather with the rose, it was just working in complete harmony with how I'd styled myself for this event. So I think that gave me a little bit of extra confidence because I thought, yeah, the fragrance is really working perfectly with my style, and maybe that translates into an aura of confidence as you meet people, as you walk past people. And I walked into this event and then someone followed me in and said, there's a few girls stood out there and as you walked past, we loved your scent. We needed to know what you were wearing. It's strong, it's noticeable, it's masculine. Honestly, if you haven't tried a rose fragrance and you can stretch to this one from Armani, it's a big scent. It's gonna get noticed. This, to me, is really manly. Another big manly rose scent that I think is a head turner is from Maison Noir, and this is called Rosa Aeterna. This one has lavender, bergamot, pink pepper, rose, tonka bean, oud, patchouli and benzoin. This is also a rose dominant fragrance. There's rose at the heart of this, and I often find that rose really adds a lot of firepower to a scent. It really helps with projection, so people tend to notice them. That is definitely the case with this. There's some pink pepper in the top, which is adding a spiciness to the rose, which makes it seem more masculine and gives it some great projection. And then in the base of this, there's some oud, and that's giving it even more firepower. So the oud combined with the rose and the fiery, spicy pink pepper in the top, this is just a projection beast. A little bit of aromatic lavender in the top, giving it a classic gentlemanly feel. Gents, this is a rose you can wear and it smells fantastic. So this fragrance from Creed is one of my all-time favorite fragrances, and I would probably say this is still my favorite from Creed. Viking. Once again, rose is at the heart of this fragrance, but it's surrounded by pink pepper, some peppermint, some lemon, absinthe, lavender, and woods. This is such a refined, sophisticated, gentlemanly scent. I would say the rose isn't as prominent in this as in the previous 2 fragrances I've talked about, but it is definitely there in the background. It's just filling out the heart of the scent perfectly. Great projection with this because of that spicy pink pepper and the mint in the top. In fact, the mint is a beautiful, clean note in this fragrance. It's one of the other notes that really make this scent. But then combined with all that and the rose in the heart is lavender. And I always think that lavender gives off this classical, timeless, masculine quality, almost just a little bit vintage. And there definitely is sort of a classical vintage feel to this scent. Some people say that it reminds them a little bit of Old Spice. Let me tell you, it is way more elevated and a way better fragrance than Old Spice. It lasts so much longer, it's more nuanced, it's more complex, there's more going on, but I can see why people compare it to that because it does have that sort of classic gentlemanly vibe to it. Creed Viking is a sensational scent, one of my most masculine, manly fragrances, and it's got rose in it. There is one surefire way to make a rose fragrance smell even more masculine, and that's to make your rose black, and that's exactly what Zaharoff did. Black rose has black pepper, there's Turkish rose and black rose in the heart, musks, vetiver, frankincense and oud. What a beautiful bottle this is, and I think this darkened rose, this very deep red rose with little bits of black on the design, perfectly reflects this fragrance because it's quite a mysterious, deep, dark, masculine, but very confident sort of scent. Rose is the most dominant scent, but again, we get some oud in this. The frankincense is giving it a lot of depth, this slightly mysterious quality. And this smells like a very gentlemanly, refined, sophisticated Zaharoff fragrance. That's what, for me, Zaharoff specialise in. And it does remind me of their original signature, which is quite a lavender heavy scent. This doesn't have lavender listed in the notes, but it seems to me to have that Zaharoff lavender-like DNA. So combine that very gentlemanly, clean sort of aromatic smell with this dark, brooding rose, and this is one powerful, confidence-inspiring, very manly rose fragrance. Another great way to make your rose dominant fragrance smell even more masculine is to smoke it out, and Kajal did that with Lamar Noir, and what a stunning bottle this is. There's some good bottles in this video. So a lot going on with this. It's fruity, there's even some caramel and vanilla in there, so it's got this sweet gourmand quality. The voluptuous rose is at the heart, but then there's some leather, oud, amber, woods and moss. Another very strong head-turning fragrance. This is a room filler. This is one of those fragrances, if you spray enough, that's going to enter the room before you do. Now I know that's not for everyone, but sometimes, maybe in a party situation, sometimes you want that. You're battling against everyone else's probably quite strong fragrances, and this is going to punch through most others because of its strength. It is a little smoky and leathery. I'm not sure where the smoke aspect is coming from because it's not listed in any of the notes, but it's not super smoky. It doesn't smell like sausages cooking on a barbecue or anything like that. But what makes this really masculine is the leather. This is like a really intense, strong leather note, but it's smoothed out by other notes in there, by the fruit, by the caramel, by the vanilla. So the leather is definitely there, providing a lot of weight and firepower to the fragrance, but it doesn't run away with it. In fact, I would probably say the leather and the rose are giving equal pairing, equal weight in this fragrance. I did wear this to a party in Milan. The theme of the party was black and gold, and this bottle is black with gold writing, and I just thought for the evening that it was, for the venue it was being held at, it was this grand palace type place in the center of Milan, and this fragrance was just in perfect harmony, again, with the style I'd chosen for that evening. And I think that counts for a lot. I think if you pick the right fragrance that goes with your style, that goes a long way to people noticing it, appreciating it, and maybe giving you some compliments. And that definitely happened when I walked into this party with this fragrance. I looked great, it smelled great. I love this scent. And finally, I'm ending with the most powerful scent of all the scents in this video, and it'll be no surprise to learn that that's from Amouage. This is the brand new Sequence. It's a little fruity up top, there's some raspberry and lychee, tonka bean, rose in the heart, leather, oud and amberwood. This is essentially a rose oud fragrance. Two very powerful notes. The oud lending it this weight, this gravitas, giving it these real masculine qualities, as is the leather. But the leather is dialed down a bit. It's not as prominent as in the Kajal fragrance. That was a very leathery leather. The leather here is certainly there, a little more in the background. It's allowing the rose and the oud to dominate in this one. The great thing about Sequence is that it's not too heavy, it's not too weighty, not too dense and overpowering. Some rose ouds can be that way, but as well as having these darker, heavier elements, there's a brightness, there's a lightness. This is probably coming from the fruity elements of the fragrance, the raspberry, the lychee, but they really help to lift it. So the lighter fruity notes giving it some lift and some elegance, combined with these heavier notes giving it a lot of weight and gravitas, the rose, the oud, the leather. This is a super strong fragrance. It's a real statement piece. If you want to have other people smell your fragrance, then this one is going to do that for you. Just a word of warning, it's that strong. I'd probably say be careful you don't overspray. I know as fragrance lovers, the temptation is to do our normal spray routine. I would say go a little bit less on this, or quite a lot less than what you usually do. If you're familiar with the other Amouage essences, in particular Outlands, you will know how strong that fragrance is, and I think this is probably just as strong. So the spray routine that you would usually use for Outlands, I would say apply to this if you know what that is. If you don't have Outlands, if you've never smelled it, then go easy on the trigger. Sequence is an absolutely stunning creation. I feel very manly and masculine when I wear this. Oh, that was a bit of a manly masculine video, wasn't it? Feel all manly now. But the thing about all these fragrances is they're not necessarily targeted to men, they're all unisex fragrances. If a woman wore these fragrances, she would smell incredible and very feminine. That's the beauty of these high-end fragrances. They almost adapt to fit the wearer. So wearing all the scents I've mentioned in this video makes me feel manly and masculine, and to me they're manly masculine smells. But I've smelled women wear these fragrances and they're deep and rich and sensual, and they work equally as well off a woman too. So if you are a woman watching this video, no fear, you can wear any of the fragrances I've mentioned in this video. But if you're a guy and you're not sure about rose fragrances and you want your fragrances to smell masculine and manly, I would highly recommend giving any of these a try. There are many more manly rose fragrances out there, and I'd like to hear what they are from you. What are your favorite manly rose fragrances? I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.